The Frank G. Zarb School of Business and WRHU-FM Radio Hofstra University invite you inside the Z-Suite.
Hello, I'm Janet Lenaghan, Dean of the Frank G. Zarb School of Business at Hofstra University. Welcome to Inside the Z-Suite, where we explore timely conversations with leaders across industries. Today, we draw insights from EY's Global Risk Transformation Study to explore what it takes to lead risk functions in a nonlinear world, one defined by rapid acceleration, deep interconnection, and change that rarely follows predictable paths. Joining me is Jessica Rodgers, Partner and Global Internal Audit Solution Leader at EY. With more than 25 years of experience across audit, risk, compliance, and emerging technologies, Jessica advises organizations on internal audit transformation, regulatory readiness, and governance in the age of AI. She previously served as Vice President and Portfolio General Auditor at a leading global payments institution, overseeing risk, compliance, and banking portfolios, and acting as a key liaison to regulators. Jessica is a certified public accountant, a certified internal auditor, a certified anti-money laundering specialist, and a certified regulatory compliance manager. She is also a very valued member of the Zarb School's Dean Advisory Board. As an alum of Hofstra, Jessica earned her BBA in accounting, and she truly is a tremendous supporter of our school and of our students. Jess, welcome inside the Z-Suite.
Oh, thank you. Wow, that was some introduction. I really appreciate it. So I have to say, it's always special to come back to campus. It genuinely feels like home. It really is a wonderful place. So many great memories, and it holds a special place in my heart. But I'd have to say, my path to accounting started in high school. I took an honors class in high school in accounting, and it just clicked. For those of you who know me, know I am very structured. I am type A. I loved the structure. I loved the logic. I loved how everything balanced. But what I really loved about accounting is that I saw a path to independence. I saw that here was a career that I could really take and do something with, and I could use it to make my own way. I could create different options. Business, accounting really felt the vehicle to get to where I am today, and Hofstra was a critical part of that. When I chose Hofstra, and why Hofstra was really near and dear to my heart, Hofstra was exceptionally supportive. I started at Nassau for financial reasons. I didn't have any other options. And Hofstra was the one school that stepped in and said, hey, you're maintaining a 4.0, we've got you. From there on in, the support, the culture, the environment, the professors in and out of Zarb saw me and invested time in me. So that is something I will never forget and really inspired me to take it to heights I could have never planned or scripted. So that is why I am beyond grateful, and probably why I'm getting a little bit emotional right now that I normally don't do. My career has evolved. I've taken twists and turns and taken risks. So I started in public accounting, which many students do. That gave me an incredible technical foundation that I wouldn't trade in for the world. But from there, went into industry, into internal auditing, and that's where I stayed. But I did come back into consulting. I love internal auditing. I love risk. I love being able to see the entire organization. Internal auditing is that one function where you see everything and you can really help and add value to an entire organization. So it's a different angle, different way of helping, but the foundation I gained from my accounting experience really helped set the foundation and give me the springboard to be successful.
So first, I just have to say, you speak so beautifully about your experience at Zarb. And one of the things that is just so valuable to us, and it's something that we feel really strongly about, and I know you know this, is developing servant leaders. You're just an exceptional role model of a servant leader because you're constantly giving back. You always meet with students, and we're so grateful for everything that you do and for all the help and support that you give us at Zarb. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
So you started public accounting and made your way to internal audit, but now you're in risk. How'd you get to risk? and risk consulting?
So I'm a consultant within our risk consulting business, and that does include internal audit. I still wear a number of hats. So I serve from a risk perspective. I serve from an internal audit perspective. Really, risk is at the core of what I do. It's what I enjoy doing. In this environment where you don't know what you're going to wake up to in the morning, I am sometimes afraid to look at the TV because you don't know what the news of the day is going to bring. And our clients are feeling that anxiety. And that's where I feel that we can add the most value. How can we help our clients get ahead of the risks? How can we help our clients have foresight to help their boards anticipate what's coming versus looking in the rearview mirror? How can we help our clients be navigators versus historians? And you can do that from an internal audit lens. I do sit on the internal audit, the Institute of Internal Auditors board, but you can also do that from a risk lens. So I serve in a bunch of different capacities because part of being a consultant, you serve in a lot of different capacities. I have a passion for risk in many different ways.
So I love that you're helping your clients turn to being navigators versus historians. I want to talk about, the global risk transformation study that EY came out with, because there were so many fascinating findings in there. And one of them that really jumped out to me is when it talked about that organizations are recognizing the severity and the need to be paying attention to risk, but yet so few of them are actually engaging in the change and transformations they need to do in order to become those navigators. What does it mean to be a navigator versus an historian? And how do you help your clients get there?
This study was probably one of the largest studies we've done in quite some time. For me, it's a study that I've been talking about since it's come out. I'm really particularly passionate about this study because it was exceptionally well done. We interviewed, just by a little bit of background on the study, we surveyed over 1,200 professionals across 21 sectors and 12 countries, and the data that came out was striking, and there were a number of things that came out of it. There were some clear pictures. First, we had two archetypes really emerge out of it. Those were the risk traditionalists, as we call them, as well as the risk strategists. We also coined a phrase, that the Navi environment, which are the nonlinear, the accelerated, this volatile and interconnected risk environment that we are living in, and it's not going to change. It's only going to pick up pace. These risk strategists, these are the organizations who are fundamentally transforming how they approach risk. And what's really exciting about them, and when we dig into them, is that they are demonstrably outperforming their peers. When we looked at the data, the clear picture, 6 in 10 firms have agreed that risk management must fundamentally transform, and only about a small fraction have actually done it. So there's some really interesting data when you dig into the study. There's a huge opportunity. There's a huge opportunity for risk functions. There's a massive opportunity for internal audit functions to really help their organizations get ahead and to mitigate the risks out there. The old playbook of the annual risk assessments, the siloed functions, that reactive posture, it really isn't fit for purpose anymore. And that's what really drove our research. And frankly, it's what helps get me going every morning and helping clients, because the organizations who figure this out are going to have an advantage out there.
There's no doubt. I recently heard, and I don't remember who had said this, but it's the winners are going to treat risk as a strategic capacity and not a control function. Risk is absolutely forefront in all executives' minds. I understand it's common, discussion in C-suite meetings. How has it changed over your career? How have you seen risks change? And why now is it so elevated to be a C-suite level, really enterprise discussion rather than just a small little part?
It's changed in so many ways. From the board meetings I used to sit in to the board meetings I'm in now, it's night and day. A decade ago, risk was largely predictable. You could look at historical data, build models, and maybe have reasonable confidence that the past was a reliable guide to the future. But that's not going to be true. When we think about in the terms of the Navi environment, risks are nonlinear. There are small events that are going to cascade into massive consequences, and they're all interconnected. If a supply chain disruption in one part of the world takes place, it could have financial and operational impacts elsewhere. and the pace of change and just the discussions around the table at the board, you can feel it. It's palpable how fast things are moving and how the boards are so dependent upon risk, upon internal audit to help them have the confidence in the decisions they're making. So risk functions, internal audit functions need to be operating and responding differently, not just faster. They have to be acting differently to give the boards, to give senior leaders confidence in the decisions they're making. Because if they keep operating the same old way, it's just not going to work anymore because boards have to make decisions on 100, 200 million plus investments in technology that, quite frankly, may not have even existed a year ago. So the same old annual risk assessments, when you just compare that, how does that even make sense anymore? So it's a whole different ballgame of the risk environment we're working in. Honestly, it's exciting.
It's interesting. The annual risk report, no sooner do you write it now, it's obsolete.
There's technology now that makes it fun, makes it exciting to address that.
Yeah, so I want to talk about all that, but I also want to just make sure our audience understands what you mean by risk is nonlinear. And you gave a little bit of an example quickly there. What exactly do you mean by that?
When I say risk is nonlinear, it used to be you could take one risk, two risks, and they would kind of happen in a predictable pattern. That predictability it's not there anymore. Yeah. There isn't that rhyme or reason where you could rely on historical data. Risk is now cascading. It's not predictable. There's a lot more volatility in the world. So you can't rely on that historical data that you once would or those more predictable models. It's making it a whole lot more challenging now.
So let's talk a little bit about organizational culture here, only because I think that has to impact elevating the internal audit function, the risk function, because as you mentioned earlier, they cannot be functioning the way they did even 10 years ago. It's changed so much. How do you get your clients to recognize that risk is really a strategic part of what they're doing, and internal audit is not to be viewed as this activity that happens alongside the organization and not part of the organization? It really is going to help the organization be better and be better able to deal with risk. How do you advise, right, the cultural change?
From a cultural perspective, the first thing I go to on that is trust. I always anchor in trust. And then second, when I talk about trust, I anchor in that trust is earned through consistency, and especially when it's inconvenient to be consistent. Anyone can be a trusted partner when things are going well, but the real test is when there are challenges, when there's pressure to soften a finding, when there's pressure to maybe not raise an issue or to say something or to look the other way. But that moment you compromise yourself, it's going to take years to rebuild that because trust is earned, but it can be lost in a heartbeat. So trust, I would start with. I would also say to be a true trusted strategic partner, showing up before the audit, when there isn't an audit, show up before the findings. Don't just show up to audit. Don't just show up when you're performing your risk monitoring or your risk activities. Have those conversations with your key stakeholders, with the C-suite on an ongoing basis. Know what's keeping them up at night. Know what motivates them, what drives them, what their top priorities are. That's really important. And also, along with that, know the business deeply. You would think that that's common sense. What I see out there is that folks, internal auditors, might not spend the time to truly, truly understand the business so deeply that they can really get ahead and help predict and have that foresight. I would also say demonstrating intellectual honesty, being willing to say that you are wrong is really important, contributing to that trust factor, to driving that trust and that strategic partnership. At the end of the day, strategic partnership means a lot more. You're not here to be the police. We all work for the same organization. You're there to be risk partners. I would also say volunteer for the hard conversations. Step into the messy, step into the challenging conversations, have that courage. I think that's really important. These all contribute, I think, to the culture. And the junior folks are watching you, and so it spreads.
It's such great advice, by the way, across all professions. Building trust, knowing your business, and so many of these things, as you said, seem to be common sense. It's so important to emphasize, right, especially to our students listening, those traits that make for good leadership, like trust. And I really liked when you talked about being viewed as a risk partner.
Yes.
And I think for years, internal audit was almost viewed as the police in the organization. And now these successful organizations are looking at internal audit as a partner.
We can still be independent and be a partner. We shouldn't use our independence as an excuse not to have a seat at the table where strategy is being decided, because our value is in our independence and being able to provide those perspectives and to be able to raise concerns before they come to fruition.
And you've built that trust, so the C-suite's going to listen.
Absolutely.
I know now emerging technologies are absolutely changing and transforming the way we work. Cybersecurity is not just something that sits in the chief technology officer or even just is the CISO's responsibility. It's the C-suite's responsibility. Can you talk a little bit about how you advise your clients around cyber risk and other technology risks?
There's a lot. So when I think about cyber, so first, there's been a big change. So cyber is probably the number one technical skill that is talked about now. Second to, believe it or not, what I like to call the human intelligence skills versus soft skills. Soft skills, I don't like the way that sounds. There's a lot of talk, and I think they all coincide together about the human intelligence skills, because when you're talking about AI, being able to challenge the outputs of AI, the critical thinking skills, having the ability to know when to challenge the output, when to rely on it, when not to rely on it. So we'll park the critical thinking skills. I'm very passionate about all of those discussion points. Cybersecurity is right after that. That's what folks are talking about. And it used to be within the IT department, and it lived there, but that's not sufficient. When you think about the interconnected nature of organizations today, which we were just speaking about, cloud, third-party vendors, digital supply chains, remote workforces, think about that attack landscape. Think about the possibilities of attacks. The consequences of a cyber incident are not just technical, they're financial, they're reputational, regulatory, operational. The risks are deep and they're wide. And the breach doesn't affect just the IT team, it's your customers, investors, regulators. So the shift that needs to happen in the most forward-thinking organizations is treating cybersecurity as an enterprise-wide risk. That's the big shift that needs to take, and that it needs to be owned at the leadership level. If that's not happening, that's usually how we're advising or how I would advise. The board needs to understand it, and it's not a one-time understanding. It's how is the board staying on top of it, because cybersecurity is moving and it's moving fast. The boards that I'm sitting in, they're asking the right questions and they're prompting and they're asking about deep fakes and how is AI impacting. And the CISO needs a seat at the strategy table. They need to be involved in the key conversations. They're not just in the security ops center. And third-party risk management. What are your third parties, your fourth parties doing around cyber, around AI? So you can't forget about the third parties, because there's a lot of risks that sit within third-party risk management. So there's a big spotlight on third, fourth parties as well.
Two things you just said that I think is so fascinating about the CISO getting a seat at the executive table, right, at the C-suite. Why is that so important?
It's just, similar to internal audit, having a seat at the strategy table. It's better to identify as decisions are being made what the potential risks are, what the potential concerns are. Get into that proactive thought process versus reactive. How much can you bolster beforehand versus after? Be that navigator, not the historian. Have that foresight. You have the smart CISO, the team, have them at the table beforehand. Have them involved as you're thinking through whether it be new products or bringing on new technology. Have them engaged from the get-go. It makes a whole lot of sense.
It really does. They're now equal to any other function, right, in terms of launching new products or going in different strategic directions. I want to also follow up when you said about don't forget about your third-party vendors and suppliers. Why is that important? So you could have everything in your organization really tight, but then as you go out, What can happen?
Yeah, so the third parties is where there's risk. And look, the third parties can have their own vendors as well. And understanding how are your third parties operating? How are they using AI? Are they using AI responsibly? What are their policies? What are their security policies? They can put you at risk just as much. So that is absolutely critical that you are revisiting your third-party risk management program, and how are you also assessing your third parties to make sure you're capturing this? Are you adjusting your contracts as needed? There could be a need in this world of AI. Contracts need to get refreshed and reconsidered and reevaluated. So you need to make sure that you're reevaluating all your third parties and how you're assessing and considering how they're using data, how they're using AI and their practices.
That's another example of that interconnectedness, right?
So much so. And third parties seems, on the face, it seems simple, but third parties are a real challenge. It's very complex.
Yeah, interesting. I want to also get your view on the other side in terms of not AI as an organizational risk, but also as an organizational opportunity, and especially in the profession. How is AI and other emerging technologies transforming the way that you do your work?
I absolutely love it. AI brings an incredible amount of promise. It does bring risk, so it has to be done responsibly. So that's my, PSA. There's a lot of excitement. And as I said, it comes with a sense of responsibility. It is enabling risk, internal audit functions, consulting firms, accounting firms. It's enabling us to operate in ways we could have only dreamed of years ago. I remember just even probably before the pandemic, which isn't even that long ago, where we would talk about, wouldn't it be great to be able to come in, see a risk dashboard of all of the risks of all of the internal audit portfolios and how things are moving so we would know how to adjust our internal audit plan? That's a reality now. To see what happened overnight. So from a continuous monitoring standpoint, we can see, so there's risk sensing now. There's all the agents that you can run an autonomous audit and then focus on what truly matters. When I say autonomous audit, though, it's not replacing your staff or your auditors. Now they can focus on the stuff that truly requires their judgment, their skill, their focus, and focus on the exceptions. It's certainly really exciting. AI amplifies human judgment. It's not here to replace it. So that's what I think is incredibly exciting. Just having the sandbox to play, try new things, sparking the innovation, the creativity, being in rooms with my teams, coming up with new ideas, new agents, new ways of working. It's all exceptionally exciting. And to see the products our firm is coming out with that are groundbreaking, that again, years ago, I would have never thought possible, and now we're just breaking glass ceiling after glass ceiling with AI. It's just absolutely incredible.
And it really is. And I love that you're saying AI is not going to replace your job. It's going to replace the person that doesn't know how to use AI.
We have a tool called EY.AI for risk. We used to have to go in manually and create a test plan. Now we can go in, talk about the area we're going in to test in the risk chat, and it literally comes out with the test plan. It has disrupted our entire internal audit lifecycle for us. And what used to take days, we can do in minutes, like an hour.
And to your point, then it allows you to apply critical thinking 100%. And value.
And that's where you need to invest time in training, because that can be taught. And I know at Hofstra, you guys are all investing in that in your critical skills lab. So that makes me really happy to hear about that. Because as a leader, we do invest a lot of time internally on that training.
Well, thank you. And thank you for that plug. We are at the point in our Inside the Z-Suite interview. I want to ask just some fun questions that we ask all of our guests that you're going to answer off the top of your head. Are you ready?
I think so.
Okay. What is your favorite household chore?
Oh, my favorite household chore is vacuuming.
Why?
It's calming. Put on music, and it's just nice and calming and peaceful.
And
I love
you can
vacuuming.
see the results. I like that.
You can see the results.
What's your least favorite?
Cleaning a bathtub. Or cooking. I would say cooking. Everybody who knows me knows I don't like to cook.
Okay. And final question. This really is for the students in the audience who are listening. What's the key to success?
The key to success for me is, I think everything is about your attitude. I do think attitude, I think how you treat other people with kindness. I really think that that's important. I try to leave every day a little bit better than how I found it, and that has made a big difference for me personally.
And I can tell you, Jess, in the years that I've known you, you do that every day. We're so grateful for everything you do for us here at ZARB, and so grateful for you being here with us on Inside the Z-Suite and sharing your journey through global leadership at EY and offering insights into how organizations are really rethinking risk leadership in a nonlinear world. I also want to thank our show's producer, Adrian Stoller, and WRHU audio engineer, John Mullen, for your support. Be sure to tune in weekly on WRHU 88.7 FM at Hofstra University for new episodes of Inside the Z-Suite, or catch up wherever you get your podcasts. To learn more about this program and the ZARB School of Business, visit hofstra.edu/business. Until next time, I'm Janet Lenaghan from Inside the Z-Suite.